Hi, so today I'm going to be filming a boutique Blu-ray collection video going through all of my boutique Blu-rays, starting with Vinegar Syndrome and going into the Severins and the Arrows and the rest of them. I'm using this as a introduction to my channel and I hope you enjoy it. So here's an overview of the full boutique collection. I have my Vinegar Syndromes right there, organized by box set size, and then VSA and slipcover, and then alphabetized within that. And then I have my Severin collection that starts there and then runs to there. Saturn's Core Indicator, Arrow, Criterion, Scream Factory, Vestron, and then Steelbooks. And then if you come over to this first shelf, we have, starting with the Vinegar Syndromes, I have 6 String Samurai, which I did not really like. New York Ninja, which was a very ambitious project from Vinegar Syndrome. The only movie that I've ever heard of undergo what they did with it. The Rudy Ray Moore collection. I have not seen P.D. Wheatstraw. Or I've only seen P.D. Wheatstraw so far. I still need to see the other 3. And then the start of the Forgotten Gialli sets. We have Forgotten Gialli Volume 3, which Murder Mansion is my favorite of the 3. This is probably the all-around best Forgotten Gialli set, although I like Arabella and The Killer is Still Among Us more than the best 2 films in this set. Forgotten Gialli Volume 4. Forgotten Gialli Volume 5, which, aside from a white dress for Marielle, I did not really like that much. Homegrown Horrors Volume 1. I'm getting Volume 2 during their upcoming Black Friday sale, and Fatal Exam is my favorite of the 3. I don't really like Winter Beast. Televised Terror Volume 1. I think this is one of their most underrated box set releases. Scanner Cop 1 and 2. Scanner Cop is a top 10 Vinegar Syndrome release for me. The Cardona collection, which I think this month, or this upcoming month, they're going to do a Volume 2 of, because they're releasing Beaks, which is another Rene Cardona film. I didn't really like this box set, aside from Cyclone, which I thought was great. And then the last one on the shelf is Ticks. And then down here is the Apocalypse Tetralogy, which I have not watched through yet. I just recently got it. Spellcaster. The Grave. House of Usher. And Fortress America, which I have not watched yet. Alley Cat, which is one of my favorite VSAs and one of my favorite Vinegar Syndrome releases. Alien from LA, which I need to rewatch, but I didn't really like it when I first watched it. All American Murder, which is my second favorite Vinegar Syndrome release. Auntie Lee's Meat Pies. Battle for the Lost Planet, which is a very good science fiction film. The sequel, Mutant Wars, is also on this disc, but it's not very good. The Bees. Best Friends. Beyond the Door 3. Blades, which is Jaws, but with a lawnmower. Bloodbeat. Blood Games. The Caller. Cemetery of Terror, which I think I liked this one more than Grave Robbers, and I still need to see Don't Panic. Count Dracula's Great Love, which as of right now is my favorite vampire film, I think. Cthulhu's Mansion. Curfew. Dark Tower, which is a movie that I like a lot more than most people seem to like. Dead Heat. And then down here we have The Fear, which was my very first Vinegar Syndrome movie. I spent probably 10 years trying to remember what The Fear 2 was. I watched it when I was a little kid and could not remember it for so long. And then the week that I finally figured out what that movie was and finally was able to track it down was the week that they came out with this. So I bought this and that started everything. We have Murder Weapon and Deadly Embrace. I like Deadly Embrace more. Deadly Games. This was one of the movies that made me realize that I was actually like a really big Vinegar Syndrome fan. This was like the #1 thing I wanted to get during my very first sale of theirs. It is probably one of the best Christmas horror movies I can think of. Death Promise. Devil Story. I'm one of the people that think that this is an amazing movie. Dolly Dearest, which is a very nice Child's Play ripoff. Don't Answer the Phone, which has one of my favorite Vinegar Syndrome performances. Ebola Syndrome. The 11th Commandment, which I thought was actually really good. I don't understand why people don't like this as much as they do. It's one of the Vinegar Syndrome movies that nobody ever talks about. Fade to Black, which is one of the movies that I think is a little bit overrated within their catalog. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. Flesh Eater, which has probably one of the best slips that they've ever put out. Flesh and Fantasy. Flesh Eating Mothers, I really like this one. Furious Sexuales, or Prostitution Clandestine is the other film in the set. I haven't watched either of these yet. And I don't know if I will. I'm probably going to end up selling that. Girl School Screamers, which is really underrated. Graduation Day, probably the best straight up slasher that they've released. That I've seen at least. Hitcher in the Dark, a very good Umberto Lenzi movie. Killer's Delight. Zombie 5 Killing Birds, a movie with no zombies and, if I can remember correctly, almost no killing birds. Grave Robbers. The Lamp, which has a cooler slip than the movie is. The Laughing Dead. The Lost Films of Herschel Gordon Lewis, which I have not watched this yet, but I'm going to get around to it soon. Memorial Valley Massacre, which I'm a really big fan of. I like films set outside, and this primarily takes place within a campground. It's a really underrated slasher in my opinion. The Naughty Victorians. Nightmare Sisters. I will buy anything at this point that Vinegar Syndrome puts out that has Linnea Quigley in it. I need to get Witch Trap before that goes out of print. Nothing Underneath and Too Beautiful to Die. I have not seen these yet. I'm going to get around to those soon. Pandemonium. Perfect Strangers. Play Dead, which for a movie that features a dog going around killing people is not as good as you would probably think it would be. Or good is maybe not the right word. Interesting and entertaining would be the right word. Resurrection. Rush Week is right up there with Memorial Valley Massacre, in my opinion, as far as being like a really underrated slasher that they've put out. This is one of those ones that I could see myself rewatching plenty of times. Satan's Blood, which I don't think is a giallo, but if you like giallos, is probably one that you're gonna enjoy. The Severed Arm is, as of right now, probably the second favorite Vinegar Syndrome slasher. I have been in the collectors group praising this one for probably a year now. I think it's really underrated, especially for being a 70s proto slasher. Sex World, Shallow Grave, Silent Madness, Steel and Lace, Sugar Cookies, Surf 2, which isn't one that I really liked, but I'm keeping it because I think it's entertaining even though it's bad. And also, I got it during my first sale, so it's kind of memorable for that. The Telephone Book, which is a really good art house movie that they put out. I kind of wish that they put out more movies like this. Trauma by Dario Argento. I have not seen this one yet, but I'm a big fan of Dario. Voyage of the Rock Aliens, which is a really underrated musical that they put out. Everyone shit on this one when it came out. I did not go into it expecting it to be as good as it was. Whodunit, which is a really good slasher. Extra 3, which is a pretty good alien movie. And Zombie Island Massacre, which is... Moving on to the next shelf, we have a couple of ACTA titles up here. We have The McPherson Tape, which is a really good found footage alien movie. I think it's the first found footage film. And Treasure the Ninja, which I have not watched yet. And then we have Amityville 4, which is a pretty good made-for-TV horror movie. Bloodsuckers from Outer Space, which... really nice regional horror movie. Body Melt, which has insane special effects. Death Machines, I have not watched that one yet. Death Row Game Show, I really wish that they would have put this one out with a slip before it goes out of print. Death Wish 2. Death by Temptation, which was one of the, along with Deadly Games, was one of the first few Vinegar Syndrome movies I saw. Disconnected. And then Forgotten GLE Volume 1. I like Trauma, and I think The Killers 113 is fantastic, but I don't like The Police Are Blundering in the Dark. And Forgotten GLE Volume 2. I've only seen My Dear Killer out of this set so far. From Beyond, which is my favorite Vinegar Syndrome movie. I had the slip, ended up selling it. The Hearse, have not watched that. Incubus. Jack Frost. Memories Within Miss Aggie. Night Beast. Orgy of the Dead, which I actually really liked for it just being people dancing on a cemetery set. The Passing. Public Affairs. The Suckling. Sudden Fury, which is actually really good. It's one of the ones that I think I'm really going to revisit a lot. Taking Tiger Mountain. This is probably the only Vinegar Syndrome movie that I own outside of a set that I really did not like. I want to revisit it at some point before I decide to sell it or not. Wonder Woman. And then Crypt of the Living Dead and The House of the Living Dead. And then 2-pack with In Search of Bigfoot and Cry Wilderness. Star Virgin. Fast Cars, Fast Woman, and Starship Heroes. And then lastly for the Vinegar Syndrome collection is Pussycat Ranch and Here Comes the Bride. And then starting off the Severin collection is the Umberto Lenzi Carol Baker Giallo set. I have not seen So Sweet So Perverse. I have seen the other three. I think the twist ending of Knife of Ice is really good, and I think A Quiet Place or To Kill is probably the film in this set that I'll be revisiting the most. I really like Umberto Lenzi so far as a director. And then we have probably my all-time favorite Severin release as of right now, which is the Dungeon of Andy Milligan collection. And then we have all the Hans BRs, which I'm currently working on watching through. I'm also watching through the Andy Milligan collection, but I got through most of them when I got it about a year ago, and I'm going back and finishing up the ones I haven't seen. I'm about 4 films into this collection so far, and it's really good. Burial Ground, one of the all-time great zombie films. I prefer Italian zombies over American zombies. I think that they look way cooler. Enigma. Demonia. Devil's Honey, which is my favorite Lucio Fulci film released by Severin so far. He is probably my favorite director of all time. Drive-In Massacre. The Masturbating Gunman, which is technically not a Severin, it's an Intervision, but it's released under their website. Massacre in Dinosaur Valley. The Peanut Butter Solution. Raiders of Atlantis. I don't really like the post-apocalypse movies that that Severin has put out so far. I'm keeping this one because it was entertaining enough for me to warrant keeping it in my collection. But I sold Endgame, and I have only kept Warriors of the Year 2072 because it's a Fulci film. Revenge of the Living Dead Girls, which is a really good zombie movie. Robo-War, which is basically a Predator ripoff. Santa Sangre, which is directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky. I'm not really a big fan of him. I haven't seen this one yet. I'm going to get around to that soon. I got it in a trade. Terror is a Man. And Zombie 3. And then my Severin DVDs. We have Violence in a Woman's Prison. Stone. The Wild Geese. Gwendolyn. Horrors of Party Beach. And Eaten Alive. And then we have my 3 Saturn's core releases that I currently have, which is Psycho Sisters. I have not watched this one yet, but I have watched Shatter Dead, which is a very good shot-on-video zombie movie with probably one of my favorite slipcovers. And then we have Red Spirit Lake and We Await. I have not seen We Await yet, but I have not seen Red Spirit Lake, and I have seen We Await, and I thought it was alright. And then moving on to my indicator collection, we have Magic, Myth, and Mutilation, the films of Michael J. Murphy. I have not watched a lot of these. I'm waiting until I have finished my Andy Milligan collection to really get into this, because I feel like they're a little similar, and I'd rather finish one director's set before really starting on this one. Mexico Macabre, the 4 sinister tales from the Almada Films Vault. I have seen The Brainiac so far and Curse of the Crying Woman, and I did not really like The Brainiac, but I liked Curse of the Crying Woman. Night of the Demon. And then my Arrow video collection starts right here. We have the Female Prisoner Scorpion collection, which is, the first 2 are masterpieces in my opinion. I don't really care about the last 2, but the first 2 are amazing. One of my favorite film franchises of all time is the Gamera franchise. We have the Showa era. My favorite of this set being Gamera vs. Gyaos. And then we have Gamera the Heisei era, which I just recently watched through and thought that they were amazing. My favorite being Attack of Legion, but I also thought that Gamera the Brave was amazing too. One of my favorite things I own in my entire collection is the Solid Metal Nightmares box set put out by Arrow, the films of Shinya Tsukamoto. Tetsuo the Iron Man is one of my favorite films of all time. And then we have the Ringu collection and the Damajin trilogy. I have not watched through this one yet. And then that carries down to here, where we have the Cat of Nine Tails. Have not watched that one, but I have watched The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. This is my favorite Dario Argento movie as of right now. Then we have Silent Running. I did not really like this movie outside of the soundtrack, which I thought was amazing. It was good visually too. Stray Cat Rock. I like all 5 of these films. They're not really connected outside of being about bikers and having some of the same actors. Right now, my favorites are Wild Jumbo and Beat 71. And then we have Reanimator, which is one of the all-time classic zombie films. Don't Torture a Duckling. Society, which is disgusting in the most amazing way possible. Color Me Blood Red. Yojimbo and Sanjuro, the 2 samurai films by Akira Kurosawa, are 2 of his samurai films. This is the start of my Criterion Collection. We have Night of the Living Dead. We have Grand Budapest Hotel, which is the start of my little Wes Anderson collection. We have Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums, and The Darjeeling Limited, which is one of my favorite films of all time. I would probably put it in my top 10. And then lastly, for the Wes Andersons, we have Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou, which I have a tattoo from. I have 2 Chaplins on Criterion so far. I want to get City Lights, but I only have The Gold Rush and Modern Times. And then starts my little Akira Kurosawa collection. I have Kagemusha, which I have not seen yet. Rashomon. Ikaru. Dreams. And then this isn't an Akira Kurosawa film, but this is probably, in my opinion, the greatest film ever made. Harakiri. And then one of my favorite trilogies of all time, the Samurai Trilogy. As far as Japanese stuff that I'm missing on Criterion, I really want to get the Lone Wolf and Cub set and the Lady Snowblood films. Paths of Glory, which is my second favorite Stanley Kubrick movie. And then lastly, for the Criterions, we have War of the Worlds, Stalker, and Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai. And then starting my Scream Factory collection is the Friday the 13th collection box set with I think 12 or 13 of the Friday the 13th movies. This is probably my favorite thing that I own, and I'm planning on getting some of this stuff signed, some of the stuff in this set signed, and the next few conventions I go to. The Fly collection. The Critters collection. Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which is a really good slasher. House of Wax. The Return of the Living Dead, which is a incredible zombie movie. Black Christmas, my second favorite Christmas movie, and probably a top 5 slasher for me. The Blob. Candyman. Candyman 2. Day of the Dead, signed by Tom Savini. Halloween 2. The Return of the Living Dead Part 2. I don't really like this one, but I'm keeping it because it is a zombie movie and a sequel to one of my favorite zombie movies. Scanners 2 and 3. Sleepaway Camp, which is my favorite film of all time, probably. If I had to pick one movie to watch for the rest of my life, it would be this. Slither, signed by Michael Rucker. Slumber Party Massacre and Slumber Party Massacre 2. This was out of print until just recently, and it was probably like $200 on eBay. So I'm very happy that they re-released these. Even though I don't really like the fact that they re-release their stuff. Wormwood, Road of the Dead. And then my Vestron collection. The Wishmaster collection. Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat. Dementia 13. Steel Dawn. Candyman, Day of the Dead. Extreme Prejudice. Earth Girls Are Easy. And The Dentist 1 and 2, which as of right now, this is my favorite Vestron release that I have. I really like Extreme Prejudice as well. And then I'm going to do my Steelbooks as well, even though I'm mainly just doing my boutique stuff. I only have a few Steelbooks. My Bloody Valentine, which is my second favorite slasher out after Sleepaway Camp. The Thing, a top 5 favorite movie of all time for me. Escape from New York. The Fog. They Live. Prince of Darkness. Assault on Precinct 13. Piranha. Cloverfield. Creature from the Black Lagoon. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is, outside of the Scream Factory Steelbooks, probably my favorite Steelbook that I own. It's probably my 4th favorite horror movie, I would say. An American Werewolf in London. And Tremors. And then the last of my Steelbook collection is down on this shelf. We have Psycho, Jigsaw, Shaun of the Dead, World War Z, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, The Ten Commandments, which this is one of the best things I own probably. This movie is a masterpiece. Mothra, Dread, The Polar Express, Valerian, The Last Witch Hunter, Das Boot, The Grinch, Southpaw, The Matrix, Black Panther, Taxi Driver, Barbarella. If I could remake any movie on the entire planet, if I had the budget to do anything I wanted, I would remake Barbarella. Dr. Strangelove, Tommy Boy, newly released Deadstream, and then probably my second favorite thing in my entire physical media collection is my Synapse Steelbook for Tombs of the Blind Dead, which is the last of my Steelbooks. Thank you for watching my video. Stay tuned for more boutique Blu-ray collection stuff, whether it's box set reviews, deep dives into physical releases, or just new release announcements. I want to cover all of it. Thank you for watching.